Hello and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another recommendation video. This week I'm going to be recommending you books specifically for Gothtober. Now if you didn't see last week's video, where have you been? Welcome. You're here now and I guess that's what matters. But we are hosting a gothic fiction themed readathon, the theme being Prophetic Galaxies, so a little mixture of prophecy and fantasy and sci-fi and space. And basically my galaxy is Gaia. It is a galaxy all around historical fiction and steampunk and dark academia all kind of mashed together into a really fun little place. So I am not going to go through the prompts that are specific to Gaia. I'm going to recommend you books that fit those prompts so that there are no spoilers if you haven't yet played the game. The link to my previous video, which is the announcement video, will be below so that you have all the information you need and all the links to everything you need to take part in this readathon. Most of these books cover at least 2 of the prompts because I do like to double up. I like to make sure that when you're reading diversely, but also that you're reading diversely across the prompts as well because it makes your life easier. So there's no particular order, there's no case of this one's better than this one. It is just going to be a case of I love these books, they fit the prompts, please go read them and then tell me what you think. So the first one I want to recommend is Project Hail Mary. This is my flatmate Lizzie's copy. It's a signed copy. Thank you, Lizzie, for letting me borrow this without having asked you because you're at work right now. Project Hail Mary follows our main character who is lost in space. He is trying to help save the world, but he is in a rocket ship all by himself. This ticks a couple of prompts that are related to the galaxy, but also is just a really great, wholesome read if you enjoy sci-fi, and even if you're nervous about sci-fi. What I really enjoy about any of Andy Weir's writing is that it feels more like a personal contemporary journey that happens to have science fiction in it than the really dry foundation Isaac Asimov style sci-fi, which I really struggle with. Mainly, maybe it's a comprehension thing, maybe it's just I don't care about the characters, whereas in Andy Weir I always care about the characters because the other Andy Weir book that would work for this is Artemis. Now again, not going to tell you why or what for, but just know that both of these books are fantastic. Also has a heist in it, a female-led sci-fi, which is rare from what I'm seeing. I don't know if that's just me not reading enough sci-fi or just not finding good sci-fi, but I feel like they are usually male-led. Really enjoyed this is female-led. I really like that she's a messy female as well and is just trying to get her life together. I liked all the different elements of this, and this ticks off multiple prompts as well. So those are my first 2 recommendations. Now I have recommended this one before and I recommend it again. I know that the hype of this one dropped considerably after a while, but Bella Mackie is or has just released a new book which is apparently along very similar themes and I want to get my hands on it, so I'm bringing this back. How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie is a really interesting story about a young woman who finds out or knows that her father is a millionaire who ostracized her and her mother when she was very young, and now that her mother has died of cancer, she is going to ruin his life by systematically ticking off each of her family members and killing them off. And it's dark, it's twisted, it's kind of like Sex and the City meets Dexter. And I loved it, and like I said, again, it ticks off multiple prompts. It's a very quick, very easy read, and just a really good time. Another one that I've recommended before but will absolutely recommend time and time again is The Lost Ones by Anita Frank. This is a historical fiction set in the kind of post-First World War Victorian era where women being sent to asylums were like genuine threat. And unfortunately the main character in this has lost her husband and attempts to commit suicide and is saved by her sister. So when her sister seems to be also going off the deep end, she does everything she can to protect her sister. However, they don't know if the thing attacking her sister is her sister herself and it's all in her head, or if there is a supernatural element, or if it is someone else in the house they are living with. It's very claustrophobic. It's a great kind of mystery. If you enjoy like gentle mysteries like Poirot or Richard Osman, this is a great one just with that historical element, with those additional elements of, is it supernatural? Is it psychological? Or is it just malicious? And I love that. I love that kind of combo. So if you like a good old ghost story style vibe mystery, this is the one for you. One of the prompts has come up again because I did say in the announcement video that Olivia always likes to add a specific prompt. I actually added one of last year's prompts again because I just thought it was such a funny prompt. And this book ticks it off. And I wonder if you're able to put the 2 and 2 together, having seen what this is. So this is Buffy the Vampire Slayer Volume 1, which was originally by Joss Whedon, but this graphic novel series is by Geordie Belair, and this is a reimagining of the Buffy story. So there's some elements in there if you watch the TV series that you might recognise, but if you've never watched the series, it doesn't matter. You can go in completely fresh because the characters are completely fresh in this, and it really develops this interesting kind of take that's very, very modern in comparison to the very 90s style TV series. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm about 4 volumes in. I've liked it less as I've gone through, but the first one is flawless in my opinion, and the artwork is stunning. So for a very particular prompt that may, again, with more recommendations, be more obvious as to what that is, this works. In fact, I'll recommend this one next because, again, I've recommended this one before. It's a great gothic novel and a very good entry-level gothic novel that also ticks the same prompt as the last one. This is a Dracula retelling by Kieran Millward Hargraves that focuses on the wives of Dracula and how they came to be in his castle and came to be in his life and how he managed to destroy theirs. It's a really feminist, really interesting retelling of those characters. It has sapphic representation in it and kind of spirituality as well. There is a lot of diversity in this, which I really, really love. And like I said, because it's a YA, it's a very, very gentle retelling. So if you're like, this is the first time I've done Gothtober, I don't know if I want to read anything super scary, this isn't scary. This reads more like an adventure story because it's YA. And I would recommend it time and time and time again, and have recommended it time and time and time again. So yes. Can you guess? Can you guess? Now, this one is a new recommendation from me. This was gifted to me originally by Celine, and I read it recently this year, loved it. Latsoye is a ghost story about a young girl who finds out that her cousin has been murdered and goes on a mission to find out who killed him and to bring that person to justice. It also ticks off very similar prompts to the previous 2 books, but what I really, really like about this is the ancestry and the indigenous rep within this. It's really, really important that we have in our BIPOC recommendations indigenous rep as well as Black, minority, Asian, etc. And I'm trying to do my best to read more indigenous books. I'm really, really excited that Darcy Little Badger has another book out already that is part of the same universe, but I think it's a prequel. But I'm excited to pick it up regardless. Like I said, it's a really, really fun book. I originally went into this thinking that it was going to be a middle grade. I don't know why I got the idea that it was a middle grade. It isn't. It is YA, and it has some really interesting triggers within it. So please do your research if you want to pick this one up. But it's a beautifully written book. Beautifully, beautifully written book, and I adored it. I adored the ending. To be fair, I adored all of it, but I really liked the way it was wrapped up. It's not so neat to be like wrapped up in a little bow, but it feels so satisfying, and there is so much action packed into this little novel that I just adored it. It's great. But it's also a very gentle read. If you're like, again, I don't want super spooky, but I want to tick off gothic prompts, Latsoye. If at this point you're like, Hannah, you told us this was a sci-fi themed readathon, where's the sci-fi? Don't worry, I've got you. We have The Blood Trials by Annie Davenport, which is a sci-fi fantasy set in a very futuristic world. This is a very Afrofuturist style novel, although it is based on Roman mythology and Roman centurions and the way those warriors are kind of built up. There are robots and androids, etc. as part of their lives. They've got AI attached to them, etc. So it is very, very futuristic, but plays on very, very traditional tropes. If you enjoyed Children of Blood and Bone, you will love this because it has that, but a lot more adult themes as well. The violence is more violent. There's some saucy scenes in it as well, and it's just a good time, and it's a chunky fantasy sci-fi that you can really sink your teeth into. But I really liked the kind of Hunger Games style futuristic tech that was within this novel, to the point that I actually think this is better than Hunger Games. To keep on the space theme, I've not read this book. I am not recommending you this book. Lizzie, my flatmate, has asked me to recommend you The Space Between Worlds by Micah Johnson, and I don't know anything about it, so I'm just, for the first time ever, I'm just going to read you the synopsis and tell you, this is not my recommendation, this is Lizzie's recommendation. They loved it. Eccentric genius Adam Barsh has cracked the multiverse and discovered a way to travel to parallel Earths. There's just one problem. No one can visit a world where their counterpart is still alive. Enter Kara. Of the 380 realities that have been unlocked, Kara is dead in all but 8. Born in the wastelands outside the wealthy and walled-off Wiley City, Kara has fought her entire life just to survive. So when she's offered a job traveling the multiverse, a safe place in the city to call home, she's willing to do just about anything to keep it that way. But then one of her doppelgangers dies under a mysterious circumstance, and Kara is plunged into a new world with an old secret. What she discovers will connect her past and future in ways she never could have imagined, and reveal her own role in the plot that endangers not just her Earth, but the entire multiverse. So, sounds wicked. Jumping back to our historical fiction, I've got The Marriage Portrait. Now, I know Hamnet was really, really popular, and The Marriage Portrait got a whole bunch of different different editions. If you've not picked it up yet, Gothtober could be the perfect time to do so, if only because it matches my outfit. You should go and read it for that, if nothing else. This is, to be fair, the Joni shirt, which was part of the Natural History Museum collection, so I feel like it's a vibe. Not sponsored, just love this shirt. The Marriage Portrait is based on the same portrait that inspired My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. I knew I'd get there eventually, which was a portrait painted for the Duke of Ferrara to show off his wife. However, he was not happy with his wife and she was not happy, and the rumour is that he murdered her. This follows that story on how she came to be there in the first place, her history, her ancestry, why she's so tied to that kind of area in Italy, and all the kind of mysteries around that. It's a beautifully slow, deep-rooted, deep-thinking historical fiction, which is why I think not many people have recommended it since, because it's not as tame as Hamnet was, but it is stunning. And again, if you really enjoy like Hilary Mantel and deep cognitive historical fictions with a lot of flourish, this is the one for you. One I read ages ago and haven't had a chance to recommend really since is Slay by Brittany Morris. This is about a young girl who creates an online game that allows the entire diaspora of Black people to enjoy and represent themselves in their blackness. But it is a game specifically for Black people, and she gets into a lot of trouble when a young boy dies related to that game, and it comes out that there is this kind of racial divide on whether you can or cannot play the game. And it's a really, really interesting take on that racist discussion of exclusivity, and whether, because you're part of a minority, you are automatically allowed to have a safe space or not, whether safe spaces are exclusive to other people and whether that's a necessity or not, but also has that really interesting take on tech and AI and how we also integrate online when some things are hidden and some things aren't. So a really, really interesting book, but a YA that moves in a really fast-paced, really fun way as well, with great BIPOC rep. Mischief Acts by Zoe Gilbert is a really interesting one because it's written in a multiple of different ways. So it's kind of mixed media. It starts off like an epic poem and ends like a documentary. And basically it all focuses around one area of London where there is a patch of forest that is hosted by this huntsman. Now, you find out very early on what happened to him and why he haunts this particular area, but it's really interesting to see how his narrative as this kind of foreboding antagonist impacts so many people. But it has a really interesting kind of multi-layered ancestry to it, in the fact that it spans so much history in one single square of space, which I find fascinating. And I really, really like that it's such a mixed writing style as well. So if you're looking for something that's a bit more of a challenge this Gothtober, pick up this one. Mischief Acts by Zoe Gilbert is stunning. And then, because I think I've banged on long enough about a range of different reads, I'm going to offer you something super, super easy to read, which is Sailor Moon by Naoki Takeuchi, which is obviously the manga that I think came before the anime, but the anime around a young girl who finds out that not only is she a princess, she is an interstellar galactic warrior princess, and whilst she's worried about whether she's got homework to do, she also has to help save the world. It's a really, really fun manga. It's a very, very quick read, even though they are chunkier mangas than normal. And if you've seen the TV series, it literally just goes through episode by episode. So in the first one, you have a couple of different monsters that she has to fight, but it has that kind of intergalactic sci-fi element to it as well. So again, if you're not convinced by sci-fi and you're worried about those sci-fi specific prompts, mangas like this can really help you out. So there you go. There are my recommendations for the 2024 Prophetic Galaxies Gothtober readathon. I don't know why every time I say Prophetic Galaxies I feel the need to do this. Like I want to just put it here and like sparkles around it and be like, the more you know. but I keep doing it. So that's fun. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below, have you picked up any of these recommendations before, and do you know what your prompts are going to be yet? I'm imagining you've probably done your TBR. If you've got any prompts that you're really stuck on, leave those as a comment down below and I will help you as best I can. Treat yourself to something from Waypoint because it supports me and my content. Check out the links below to check out my co-hosts as well as anything else related to the readathon, and most importantly, have a nice day.